what happens, but I'm going to keep a close eye on it. And I appreciate your insight. I want to ask you about the Satoshi coins, and then also the AI, the opportunity for entrepreneurs with AI. That's so huge. So if we can take a few minutes and give your perspective on the 80,000 BTC, and I guess there's another 15,000 BTC maybe. What's the status of these Satoshi coins?
So all of a sudden, about 6 weeks ago, old wallets started moving, real old stuff. 2010, 2011, old mined coins, and it started to happen right around the same time that there were these weird like confiscation, not orders, but sort of the way that you used to be able to post in like a public newspaper and say, hey, we're going to claim this house if nobody else claims this house in 90 days or whatever. Common old practice. You'd get wealthy people that would look for houses that didn't have their grass getting cut regularly. So, hey, is this house abandoned? Maybe I can just pay the tax and title on it, take this house and flip it or whatever else, just add it to the real estate portfolio. And Salamon Brothers, which was an old sort of Wall Street firm that had disappeared about a decade ago, if I recall, all of a sudden there started being these, hey, these Bitcoins appear to be abandoned, and our client would like to take possession. If they are yours, please contact Salamon Brothers. They were sending dust transactions with these little op return strings in them with these, public, like, hey, we're going to take your stuff orders. So it was pretty weird situation. Turns out, I think it actually is Salamon Brothers. It's been spun back up and is doing exactly this thing, which is in itself very, very bizarre in my opinion. But and then these really old coins, like a bunch of the dusted addresses started moving, and moving them is an indication that, hey, these are not abandoned. And it's literally like the person coming home, cutting their own grass and saying, get off my lawn. Like, you cannot just pay my, this is mine. And so that's weird. Now, a huge chunk of this BTC and BCH, if I recall, at least in some of the situations, started moving to Galaxy Digital, which is a huge firm, one of the oldest firms doing like big OTC work in the space, and liquidating huge amounts of BTC. Now, the curiosity here is that a number of these addresses had been listed in the Kleiman documents as property of one of the trusts associated to Craig Wright. There's multiple tulip trusts, and it's a whole onion that I would need some graphing and illustration to explain out in full. But ultimately, let's just say these are coins that are associated to Craig Wright via his trusts, according to documents submitted in the Kleiman case. And so that begs the question, like, is this Craig, or is this the tulip trust? Maybe it's the other trustees and not Craig. Maybe it's any number of things. Or the other thing is maybe it's just random miners who are seeing this stuff and saying, okay, I guess it's time to move these things around. But the curious thing is that, like you said, tens of thousands of these coins did not just go into new addresses. They went to Galaxy Digital and they started selling. So that's it's a huge chunk of money to sell. I don't know who needs all that money at once, but making those kind of decisions is very curious, especially after all these years. It kind of begs the question, like, okay, why move all of that money into fiat right now when it seems like, I almost can't think of a time in the last 15 years when fiat seemed like a worse place to be storing money, but maybe they're doing maybe they're buying precious metals, maybe they're buying real estate, maybe they're buying some other thing with all this money, but a lot of really weird stuff going on, lots of ways to speculate on who it is or why. But one of the most curious things in the last 24 hours that one of the addresses that some of these coins were sent to is a vanity address. And a vanity address is and then in all caps, CEB3RG is what I think those first several letters are. In hacker lexicon nomenclature, it says Iceberg, which for anybody that recalls the history of Craig Wright talking about what he's going to do to Bitcoin, he made a public announcement given, I think at the time it was a year's notice or whatever, but he was giving...
So he said long-term legal notice.
Long-term notice, which is key. When you're a key holder of a certain asset, and if you sell, you can crash the whole market, you have to give long-term notice so other investors can make their exit. Basically saying, hey, I may exit my multi-billion-dollar position. Prepare yourselves. Now, most people, I think at the time when he said this, Bitcoin Core was $3,000 and BSV was probably $100 or $200 a coin. They were much more closely correlated. And people say, wow, Craig's a liar and a scammer because now BTC is $115,000 and BSV is $30. And so he didn't have the coins. He wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it that way. So there's no way Craig would have done it that way. But the way he explained it was, he actually wrote a whole article about rolling icebergs and the way to sell these things in and create this momentum that destroys BTC and makes BSV grow and all this other stuff. So it is an extreme curiosity that a vanity address starting in the word iceberg is the recipients of one of these coins, which is going to get all of our, all the tinfoil hat and antenna people are, they're buzzing. And, I'm very cautious about these things because on the one hand, there's a big part of me that instantly is like, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on too. But also, it's, I have to be very careful. I like to be that conservative guy to say, don't do anything crazy. I'll always make a conservative decision. Like, should speculate on it a little bit. Don't bet the house.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is for sure like some of the most entertaining stuff ever in Bitcoin because while people called Craig crazy all this time, if that actually is happening right now, Iceberg, how would that end up even on there? Is that just it was on there the whole time, or somebody knows how to change it? How's that possible?
So by chance, it's probably 1 in a trillion, maybe more. Maybe it's 1 in 100 trillion that you could just get that address. Now, the way that public and private keys work, if you just randomly generate public keys off of a private key, every time you add a letter that is a letter of significance, so could something come out as one Kurt, for example, from my vanity address? By chance, like each time you add a letter, like Kurt would be several orders of magnitude easier to generate by chance than Kurt Wookert Jr., which would be infinitesimally close to impossible, right? But you can mine vanity addresses. So if you have an algorithm with your private keys, you tell it like, okay, I want you to mine me this address because I want to use this address. With sufficient hash power, you could mine something like Iceberg probably inside of a day or two. It really depends how much hash power you have. If you have a very powerful machine, you can make a whole string that says like Kurt Walker Jr. is the bomb, and that could be my Bitcoin payment address. But you have to know what you're doing with it, and you have to be able to mine it. You have to be able to essentially find it in all of the variance and chance, because like I said, when you have private keys, you can generate near infinite public keys from it. And with near infinite possibilities, anything is possible. They exist out there. So there is a one Gavin Mehl address out there somewhere in the universe, but you have to find it. And finding it is basically a giant math problem. But if you have sufficient power, you can essentially brute force that address and then use it. So it seems it's near impossible that address exists by chance, which means somebody did it very purposefully.
Somebody did it very purposely. They mined that address with a ton of hash power. Is basically the likely outcome. Somebody with a ton of hash power and a massive amount of knowledge on how to even do that. This was no accident. All right, so man, I mean, really exciting stuff, dude. What about the? I mean, I just have to theorize here a little bit before we go into the AI stuff. I want to ask you, and that's why the heck aren't they selling the BSV? And what is the market cap of the BSV? Because if this guy is selling, what is it, 80,000, maybe not 100,000 BTC, isn't that like almost $10 billion? And so with $10 billion,
it's a huge chunk of money.
He's not selling the BSV. BSV is so small. I mean, is that right? He's just leaving it there?
So far,
what would the effect if he just said, you know what, let me put 10% of this into BSV? What would the effect of that be? I don't know is that part of the realm of possibility of the rolling iceberg?
That was the way the rolling iceberg conversation was had. That hey, if you time things right in how you sell the BTC into BSV, you could flip the market caps and whatever. This is like 5 years ago or more now, so I don't remember exactly what the details are on that conversation. But it's designed to do that, and it's designed to also, if I remember, I might be mixing two things up. It might be correlated to closeness to a halvening, making it that hashing is very unprofitable directly after a halvening. And so if it's very unprofitable and you can push the price down at the same time, you can kind of create like this death spiral where difficulty becomes too high to mine another block, which then forces a coordinated hard fork in order to fix the difficulty algorithm to get a new block on BTC. And so it's a way, well, it does two things. It shows that under pressure, a small group of people, here's my magic thumbs up, that a small group of people can change Bitcoin, right? And that's part of the attack, is to undermine that sort of it's immutable, nobody's in charge. You just got to show them. You have to say, okay, like, if your head is being held underwater and you're going to drown, if you don't tap out and say, okay, I can change it, like that's a little bit the conversation that's happening there. So,
So it sounds like there's an article from five or so years ago. Maybe it could have been part of the long-term legal notice article where it talked about the potential strategy. And I'm only giving it a little bit of weight now because of this realm of impossible situation with the iceberg showing up on the blockchain. Yep. I mean, if that didn't just happen, I guess we'd say, okay, it was just playing games again. But
that's the guy.
It's like this is starting to potentially make sense. So for people who want to research it, it sounds like that could be on the internet somewhere about the possibilities of it. I mean, and could it cause a flip, like a hyper Bitcoinization? Is that what it's called, a hyper Bitcoinization moment, or what is it? What is it?
I think people would probably call it the flippening. I would save hyper Bitcoinization for an event where, I don't know, something like more than half of all people are doing a Bitcoin transaction per day or something like that. But it's hyper Bitcoinization to me is that like rapid onset of real world use of the technology. But it would be news. It would be the news of the week for sure if such a flippening event were to happen. So I'm here for it.
Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about the AI convergence with Bitcoin. And there's a guy out there. I'll plug it at the end of the video, but I'll plug it here at the end. He wrote an article.
All right, guys, it's Brandon. So that episode, a lot of people assumed that I had seen that or knew about this stuff. I actually didn't really know much about it. I came to this conclusion that something like this could be going on because, first and foremost, my gut, I have like a magic gut. Sometimes it's right, other times it's not right, but usually if it's not right, it's just a delay game until it's finally right. I feel like it just got kind of revealed to me that why wouldn't really wealthy Bitcoin owners transfer to BSV and then take that one up and abandon BTC? When BSV is technically the one that can't be ruled as a security, it's always going to be the commodity. So the securities exchange can't get involved with it. So, and then I got to thinking about it and I'm like, you know what would a big super hack of all, not just crypto, but even like big banks like Bank of America, Chase, a big super hack of like the networks and all the different things would allow a big SEC investigation to unfold on all the cryptos that then collapse, okay? And BSV would, like I said, dive for a little bit maybe, but depending on how many people in the know go ahead and jump ship onto BSV, if not enough people jump in the beginning, So its price comes down a little bit in the very beginning, but then it would skyrocket once people realize, oh, this one can't be touched by the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission in the United States. So obviously the United States is a big economy, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of production, so on and so forth. So I did not know about this. I didn't know about this Iceberg story. Someone actually sent this to me, and let's see what episode this is. This is called The Untold History of Bitcoin from Bilderberg to AI Convergence, and it's Gavin Mehl, M-E-H-L. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. I'll go ahead and put the link in this video here. But I was pretty astounded to see that that matched up with what I've been saying. And this actually aired, let's see, July 26th. So this has been out for over a month. And I didn't know that. I just knew that I was seeing big blocks of Bitcoin, BTC, showing up on the exchange count tally that were not being represented either on the graph and or on the 24-hour, 7-day, and 1 month change, okay, where it shows the change percentage and the count. It wasn't showing up. So it's like these 100,000, 150,000 blocks of Bitcoin were being snuck in, and they, instead of having the graph go back up where the exchange now has an extra 150,000, they instead kept the point on the exchange the same, and they lifted the rest of the graph up, okay, if that makes sense. So instead of the graph go down and come up, they had the graph right there, and what they did was they lifted the rest of the graph throughout the past up 100,000, up 150,000, so that instead of, May being, I'm just going to make up a number, 2.5 million, May became 2.6 million, which was a lie. May was 2.5 million, but they raised the whole thing up. That way the slope of the graph doesn't change. And if a person just logs into CoinGlass or any of these websites that track the slope of the graph, they see, everything's still running out of supply. So I'm going to keep buying Bitcoin because there's going to be a supply crunch on Bitcoin. So that's what led me to believe this. I didn't know about the Iceberg thing. So now you've got two smoking guns, basically. So just watch this episode again, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this yet. I'm just learning it with you guys. See ya.